Yo, what up, guys? Jumping here, and today I'm going to be bringing you another Platinum gameplay. This is going to be some vanillas blowing up Platinum. What it's really going to be is 2 human adepts, those are the vanilla adepts, and 2 human sentinels, the vanilla sentinels. They're called vanillas. I learned this actually recently because I was hearing that term like vanilla sentinel, vanilla adept, vanilla vanguard. I'm like, huh? But I guess that just means plain and basic, default, all that. So it's like, okay, I guess that's funny or whatever. Sure. But yeah, so this team is actually pretty effective. Like, it was kind of surprising. We did this for fun. We were bored, we wanted to do some biotic explosions on Platinum, and we were thinking about it, and I was playing with the human adept at this point, just playing gold, and I was like, sounds interesting, let's do this. And it turned out to be extremely effective, which was surprising. It was definitely surprising for sure. Now, the way I'm playing this guy in this Platinum gameplay is pretty much the way I normally play him. But the build is definitely a little bit different than what I normally use. I'll put it in the description if you guys are wondering. Just always check. If I do not show a build or something and you are curious about it, check my descriptions out because there's a good chance I'm putting them in there now for non-build videos. Because for a build video, yeah, I always do the little thing, like the beginning. For these, no, not so much. It's just more or less if something has changed, or if something's, if I know for a fact people might be curious in the build, I'll put it in the description for you guys and all that. Anyway, yeah, but the human adept is amazing. One of the best adepts in the game. Now, I know one thing that a couple people might ask, like right away, is that if you're doing like basic humans and you're doing explosions, where's the human vanguard at? And that's a good point because we actually kind of forgot about that. Believe it or not, we actually forgot all about the human vanguard. Although I was pretty satisfied with the way that it turned out, like at least this team. But yeah, the human vanguard would have been decent as well. And what I would recommend if you want to try something like this, just for fun, is maybe if you're going to incorporate a human vanguard into it, replace one of the sentinels with the human vanguard. But anyway, yeah, the human adept, though, is actually, like, my favorite adept in the game. Now, I had a video about this guy that came out, like, I think right before Retaliation. And I was just talking about how much I love this guy because of the way they changed Singularity, and they made it so much better now. Now, the Fury is another really good adept. The Drell, the Slasher, those are amazing adepts. Like, there's, like, 4 adepts in this game that I personally think are, like, the best. And that is, the human is number 1 in my book. Number 2 is maybe the Slasher for the combination of getting his own explosions really quickly with warp and cluster grenades, and they're extremely powerful explosions on top of that. And the other thing about the Slasher that makes him really good is that he's beefy. He's like got a lot of health and shields for an adept, which is pretty rare. The next one I would say is maybe the Drell. I love the Drell. He's like a classic. He's so much fun to play. He's really, really good. And the Fury's really good. They all have their strengths. They all have their weaknesses. The Fury can detonate explosions really quickly. The Drell, he just like blows everything up with the Reeve and all that, and he runs really fast, which is always fun. The Slasher is beefy, like I said, and he's also can do the whole Drell thing. You warp, you cluster grenade, and it's great. But the human, what makes him so good is that, to my knowledge, he's the only adept in this game that can actually detonate 2 explosions at once with his power combination. So what that means is this. What he can do that the other adepts can't, you throw out Singularity, and because it stays active, enemies tend to walk through it, so you can always just shockwave again, and any new enemy that has passed through it will now be set up, and you can explode. But what's really good is that if there's a group of enemies, like 3 enemies, all clustered up together, and you throw out your singularity, as long as it's affecting both of them, and then you hit them with shockwave, you'll actually detonate 2 explosions. That sounds kind of crazy, but that is exactly what happens. So I've been able to kill banshees on gold. Like, normally banshees sometimes will come at you 2 at a time. Like, they'll literally chase you down. The 2 banshees will chase you down. And what I've been able to do is kill them in 3 explosions. But that's not because it was 3 explosions. That is because it was technically 6 explosions. I detonated 3 double explosions, killing the banshees like super quick. It's crazy, but that's exactly what you can do with this guy. He's amazing. Like, singularity is great. Now, before someone says, well, what about the Cerberus adept? I don't like him. I'm not a big fan of smashing all that much. It's a cool looking power. The human adept is, or not the human adept, but the Cerberus adept is decent for sure. He's not bad, but I don't think he comes close to this guy. Because this guy gets the shockwave, and shockwave is just amazing. Like, that's just the thing. Shockwave is so good for so many reasons. The first reason is that it can detonate every explosion in the game really well. If you're talking about cryo explosions, this power is amazing. Overload is probably better, but this power is really good. Definitely second best power for cryo explosions and fire explosions, and in my opinion, it's the best power for detonating biotic explosions. And of course, it also detonates tech burst and all that. This really sucks right here. I don't know how the hell I fell for that, but that was 2 games in a row where I literally walked right past a hunter, and then I turned and he slapped me in the face and then killed me. That was 2 games in a row that happened, and that was really frustrating, but it's whatever. Anyway, so yeah, this guy's amazing. Like, he really is. A lot of the vanillas are really good, and I'm surprised I don't see them more often. Now, there's a couple that you do tend to see, because they're pretty popular, like the Human Vanguard and the Human Soldier. And I think the reason why they're popular is because they're kind of unique. Like, the Nova Guard, well, he's the only person in the game that gets Nova, so if you want to use Nova, you have to use him. So a lot of people do use him for that reason. He's really good in general. And the human, he gets Adrenaline Rush, and the only other person who gets that is the other Battlefield 3 soldier, which is basically a human soldier. Which I personally think the best way to play with him is just use Carnage and the frag grenades for doing fire explosions. So, like, that's just something that is up. Like, honestly, the human soldier is the way to go for using a Adrenaline Rush kind of thing. Claymore, particle rifle, there's a lot of great combinations with the human soldier. So, he's pretty popular because of that. But the human adept, I never see this guy. Like, I never see anyone play this guy, and believe me, like, he is just so much fun. I think one of the biggest problems is that, and I hate this, and one of my reasons for wanting to do a video like this is because I really hate, and I've talked about this before, but I really hate the whole cryo explosion, fire explosion thing now. It's so annoying in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not trying to dog the game or anything like that, but it's just that, man, you see so many people using the Alliance Infiltration Unit or the Paladin or the Geth Trooper or a Vorcha using Flamer. You see all these people. If you are trying to do an adept, like at least this guy, if you're trying to play with this guy and you come into a lobby and there's AIUs and Flamers and all these other people, you better just switch, because you're not going to be getting your own explosions. You're going to be detonating a ton of cryo explosions with shockwave, a ton of fire explosions, all that. And that just gets annoying, because that's like the one thing that has changed in this game, I think, for the worse. Biotic explosions are so much fun. Like, me and my buddies in this gameplay, we had a blast. It was so much fun, and we were really surprised that this team actually even worked. We thought this was just... We went into this as a joke, and we walked away from it saying, oh my god, that was really good. I mean, I don't know. It's really annoying, just the fact that you always will see people with snap freeze, especially since the AIU is out. And you also see the Geth Trooper all the time, because he's just easy mode. Anyway, right here, yeah, oh god, that was terrible. I don't think that this human gets any type of bonus speed with the whole light melee. That's, if you're wondering what I was doing there, normally when I carried the package I do the light melee, but certain races, especially like Turians, Krogans and all that, when you do their light melee, you tend to move faster, so you're able to deliver the package faster. And with this guy, it didn't really look like I got any type of movement bonus, so I don't think that the humans get it, and that kind of sucks. But the danger of doing that, and it happens to me actually quite a bit, is that if you're trying to do the light melee thing, you might turn the corner and you will lunge into a big enemy like an Atlas or a fucking Brute or a Banshee, and then it can be really bad. So that's the one that you have to watch out for, but try to remember that technique. If you didn't know about that, if you're a Turian or if you are any race, you should try the light melee thing and see if it works. Believe me, you can deliver the package really fast that way. Anyway, I was talking about this a little bit earlier. I didn't actually get to explain it all that much. The way I play with this guy is primarily Singularity, and I use Shockwave. You might be wondering, why no Warp? Now, on my other build, my female, I use Warp. But for this gameplay, and what we were doing, I just didn't need it. There was no way I was going to use it and put points into it. The reason why is because we have these Human Sentinels. And although Throw is a really good power, they're not using Throw. They're both just using Warp. And the reason for that is because the whole idea is that if I Singularity an enemy, and then they warp that enemy, I'll get an explosion. And if they, warp another enemy or something, and I'm Shockwaving, I'll get them an explosion. So there's a lot of explosions going on here. And Warp is an amazing power no matter what you do, especially for explosions. So since they are warping so much, there's no real point for me to use Warp. Although I do like it on this build. Only for bosses and armored enemies like Brutes and Ravagers and all that, I will tend to throw out my Warp to weaken their armor / get a stronger explosion, because the explosion from Warp is extremely powerful because Warp debuffs armor, it debuffs the enemies so they take 15% more damage and all that. Very good. Warp's a very good power. Anyway, one thing I wanted to bring up as well is that in this gameplay I'm using the Scorpion, and I used to actually play, for an entire week, I played with this guy. That's how much fun I had when they changed Singularity. I thought that this guy was so much fun, and I played with him for an entire week. And in that week, this is before Retaliation, I was farming for credits. So I was playing a lot of Platinum, and I was using this guy on Platinum a lot. And he was really, really, really good. That was for sure. And it was a lot of fun to do it. But around that time, I started putting a Scorpion, or at least I started to really use the Scorpion a lot. And, oh man, the Scorpion on this guy is so much fun. For one, it's extremely effective because the Scorpion is an amazing gun at stunning enemies, keeping them away from you and all that. Shockwave is really good at that as well. Shockwave is such an amazing power for detonating biotic explosions and all explosions, but it also really helps you stay alive. That's one thing you have to realize about Shockwave. It stuns groups of enemies. So if you have 3 enemies shooting you, if you Shockwave, you'll get a little bit of a break. Literally all the enemies will stop shooting you for a second because you probably just stunned all of those enemies. So that's a great thing about Shockwave. But the Scorpion also does the same thing, especially if you can get the direct impact. You want to kind of aim for direct impact with this guy. Because I'm also using Warp Rounds 4, or at least we are all using Warp Rounds 4. So if you can get direct impact with the Scorpion, I think that effect of 100% more damage with your biotic powers, I think that takes effect. I'm not too sure. Someone can actually, answer this for me because I am curious. If you apply the Warp Rounds effect to an enemy, does the biotic explosion gets the bonus 100% damage? Is that something that happens? I always wonder that. I never knew. So that's something someone could answer for me. But anyway, yeah, but the Scorpion's amazing. It's a lot of fun too, especially on things with Throw and Shockwave, because what you can do, and it's actually awesome. And you'll see it a little bit in this gameplay, but it didn't happen as much as it normally can happen. what you can do is that if you can stick an enemy with like a ton of scorpion rounds to the face, and then let's say a couple of them blow up, and then they lose their shields, and then you shockwave them, you can actually knock them back with all those grenades on them. Right here, I believe I'm going to get grabbed, and that really sucks, but I'm just going to edit this little bit out. It was like 40 seconds, and my team had no problem, so it's like whatever. But anyway, like I was saying, so you can knock enemies like forward or backwards or whatever with like a ton of grenades in their face. And what's really fun is if you can actually knock those enemies into groups of enemies. Like, that's exactly what I love to do. Like, you stick like a certain enemy with like 3 or 4 scorpion shots, you knock them backwards right into a group of like 3 enemies, and you will actually probably kill a couple of those enemies that you knocked them into. It's actually really hilarious. It's like just comedy. So that is an amazing feature of the Scorpion on a build like this. Besides the fact that it's extremely effective for taking out Phantoms. This guy, or at least Singularity, makes Phantoms your bitch. Like, that is so true. The first thing is that if you're using the Scorpion, at least you're going to be able to stagger them and all that. And once they lose their barriers, they will get caught in the Singularity and they'll go flying and they become totally useless. So keep that in mind. Like, this guy is really good at that. But now there's one other thing that you have to realize, is that when you're using the combination of the Scorpion and this guy against Phantoms, for example, if you're playing gold or something, this is a really good tip. A lot of times you will throw out your Singularity and they'll go into the whole "you can't hurt me, motherfucker" mode. I hate that shit. But yeah, they'll go into that mode. When they do that, start spamming the Scorpion at them. Like, just start shooting them. Like, you get free shots, basically, with your gun. Once they come out of that, they'll be staggered. The second they're staggered, if you shockwave, you'll probably be able to get your explosion on them. So that normally will either kill them or really, really hurt them. Once they lose those barriers, you gotta remember this as well. And the Scorpion, of course, can also help you make them lose their barriers. But once they lose their barriers, man, it's over for them. They're screwed. Like, because then you just, they'll get stuck in the Singularity, and they'll go flying, and they become useless, and then you can just blow them up or whatever. It's really, really awesome, guys. Singularity is amazing. This guy is amazing. Shockwave is amazing. The Scorpion's amazing. This is just awesome. Like I said, we just had a lot of fun doing this. Now, I know that there's like these community challenges out now, which, like, the community, or at least on the BioWare social network, you can go on there and there's like little challenges because there's no more weekend challenges anymore. So people have like come up with certain challenges you can do. Is there any real point to do the challenges? No, not really. It's more or less just bragging rights, or just to say that you did it. And we weren't doing anything like that in this gameplay because I guess we kind of came close because we didn't really use rockets all that much. Or really, I think we only used 2 rockets in this gameplay, and it was me who used the rockets. I used one in this wave coming up, and I used one in the last wave, the extraction wave. Which I believe the rule for the challenges is that you cannot use rockets unless it's an injective wave or something like that. Right here is where I needed to use it just so I can get this package and get to moving. But yeah, there's no way this guy gets a bonus to speed with the melee, so I look really stupid right now, but it's whatever. Anyway, yeah, but you can go check those out. Some of them are pretty awesome. Other ones are like really stupid and ridiculous, like play a full Volus team using Predators on Platinum, no rockets. It's like, oh my god, collector start. It's like, this is ridiculous. Like, that just sounds really, really bad, but you know, it's just something you can do. Like I said, it's pretty interesting stuff. Now, if you want some general tips about Glacier playing like the way we are, for example, because we weren't really playing all that aggressive, we weren't like moving around all that much, but we were moving around enough just to pretty much classify it as probably non-camping, but it still was pretty close to camping, which is something I never do. But we were, like I said, we were kind of just holding down that one top room the majority of the game, to be quite honest. I can admit that, because that's exactly what we were doing. But if you guys want to know like a couple of good initial places to stand or whatever to actually play, learn the Platinum speedrun. because the positions we were running, although we weren't doing the Rocket Platinum speedrun or anything like that, we weren't doing that, you could still use those positions to really lock down the map and force the spawn to be in like one area so you can take them out in that area. And what those positions are is one's in dark room, one's in the nook, and one's like on the landing pad / a little bit on initial, so you block initial, you block the landing pad, all that. Now I know the majority of you guys just probably scratched your heads and said, what the fuck is the nook? So what I'm going to recommend you guys to do if you want to learn the Platinum Speedrun setup, go and watch N7 Spec Ops Invader 1's Platinum Speedrun tutorial on this map. Go watch that, because I'm sure, I haven't actually ever watched that video, but I'm sure that he explains all the little things I just said, how to do it and all that. And those are some really good general tips for actually setting up maps, locking down spawns, all that kind of stuff. And for the most part, we were pretty much doing that in this game. The only thing we weren't doing was a speedrun. We were just playing for fun, because it's a lot of fun to blow everything up. Anyway, guys, so I really hope you have enjoyed this video, honestly, because like the point of it, like I said, was to talk a little bit about the Human Adept and say he's amazing, to also talk a little bit about how biotic explosions are, well, you just don't see them as much, and I wish it wasn't like that, because I really do get annoyed with how much people play things with snap freeze, or at least the Alliance Infiltration Unit, the Paladin, and how much you see Borchas and how much you see Geth Troopers. That just pisses me off, because, like, to me, the most fun like I would ever have with an explosion team is doing this right here, just blowing everything up with biotic explosions, and I would love to see that come back. But anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this. Please like and favorite and all that, and you guys have a nice day.